right on a keeper, up across the 15, cuts left at the 20, off the room at the 30, headed to the near sideline, one man to beat, makes the move at midfield, coming to the near side at the 30, he's at the 20, he's at the 10, 5, touchdown, Kentucky!
Welcome into another episode of Believe in Kentucky. Aaron Gershon and Vinny Hardy. AG, there's only one opportunity left to hear touchdown Kentucky because the season is almost over. Well, it is over after we play Louisville. So
yeah, and we'll see just how many times we'll hear that on Saturday. There haven't been that many this year, obviously. I think I saw a stat where they might have had more turnovers than offensive touchdowns in SEC play. So frustrating season, but a little something to look forward to with Cutter Boley starting Saturday for the first time. And it's going to be freezing cold in Lexington for those who are going to the game. Dress accordingly, like low 30s, high 20s. But a little look into the future and finish off the season that's been highly disappointing, hopefully on a high note.
Yeah, here we are, playing for pride. That's it. The bowl streak is gone. You and I legit thought 8-4 was easily attainable for this team. We didn't just say it just to say it. If you show up with the talent you have, you can win 8 games.
Yeah.
And the offensive line was very, very flawed, and that just shot down a lot of what you're trying to do, and then just kind of spread and just so 4-8 is on the table.
We're up.
Yep. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it starts, like you said, with the offensive line. The South Carolina game was just kind of a precursor of what was to come, and they just never found a cohesiveness in the pass blocking unit all year long. And honestly, on both sides of the ball, they had guys who were good football players last season play poorly, or not. I wouldn't say poorly, but not up to their standards. I mean, Marcus Cox took a step back this year. Gerald Mincey wasn't as effective as he was at Tennessee here. Then on the other side of the ball, like Deion Walker, it's hard to pick on him too much, but that wasn't the guy that he was in 2023 when he had 7.5 sacks and like 12.5 tackles for a loss. He just wasn't that guy at all. He wasn't a dominant force. I mean, right now we're at week 14, the last game of the year. Going into it, he's got 1.5 sacks, and he has just 5 tackles for a loss. Like, that's not Deion Walker. That's not the same dude. There's been guys who have stepped up, like Jamon Dumas-Johnson is everything and more they could have asked for out of the portal. I think Jordan Lovett's played really well down the stretch. JQ Hardaway, you've seen him get better and better, but and then on the offense side of the ball, not many players had a good year. I think Jalen Farmer has been actually pretty good at right guard, but it's hard to give anyone on that line too much credit. So just an all-around frustrating year and so much to work on. And, we'll be spending all of December talking about tons and tons of roster transactions, if you will, because it's going to look a lot different going into next year. It has to, even though I don't think at this point, I don't think there's going to be any major changes in the coaching staff. Is it possible Brad White leaves for another job? Sure. I'm not going to put odds on it. I think that's like the most likely staff change of any, though. I think you're going to see a lot of the same. I think Mark Stoops is very much committed to building continuity. I don't think he's just saying that. I think he is going to try to keep it as cohesive and as close as just keep as many as the same faces on staff as possible. And that's going to, they're going to try to keep their star players. It's, from that angle, it's not going to look a lot different, but up and down the roster, you're going to see moves of guys leaving. You're going to see moves of a lot of guys coming in, and it's going to be a new look going into next year, and it has to be.
You say you think Brad White's most likely?
I think he's most. I think if anyone on this staff leaves, it wouldn't be. I mean, I don't. Could Chris Collins get poached? Sure. Could Anwar Stewart get poached? I guess, but I think. Just from what's out there, I think if anyone on this staff goes, it would be Brad White because he's given 6 years as coordinator, 6 years to this program. Mm-hmm. They haven't quite taken that step up. It's a chance for him to go to make more money and kind of get his name closer to being where it needs to be for a head coaching vacancy. And, if he goes, maybe he takes a Chris Collins or he takes an Anwar Stewart with him. So that, that's plausible, but I just don't see, I don't think they're not much. I know they're not going to be moving on from Bush Hamden unless something drastically changes. They're not going to, Jay Boulware's done a nice job. They're not going to move off him. DeKel Shorts just got here. I just think if there's Eric Wolford's not going anywhere. I know a lot of fans wish he would. He ain't going anywhere. So it's just like I don't think you're going to see that mass change on the coaching staff. Definitely, and I don't think you're going to see it with the head coach either. So I would say if I had to pick anyone on the staff to go anywhere, it's probably Brad. But even then, I'm not convinced that's going to happen.
Yeah. So, it's like you said, it's time for all the parts to move. It's going to be as soon as the game is over. You heard Stoops talk about it. I think Sunday you're going to be looking to address all these things. So we shall see. On the opponent side, the rival side, if you're Louisville, they have probably been thinking for years if this is the year that we finally beat Kentucky. It hasn't happened for them yet. Is this the year, based on, we saw them lose to Stanford in a ridiculous fashion. We didn't even talk about that.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
But, they come back and bounce back strong against Pitt. They're scoring points. We have not. So if those trends play out, it's going to be hard for Kentucky to knock them off. Defensively, you mentioned Deion Walker not playing well. Pop Johnson did what he was advertised to do, but if they play the way they played all year, the Kentucky streak against Louisville might not even be able to stay intact.
Yeah, that's kind of like the last thing Kentucky's has left from their run, right? Florida, that streak got snapped this year. Obviously, the South Carolina, Missouri, Vandy, all that is gone. So beating up on Louisville is kind of that last thing Mark Stoops has left under his belt that the fans love and love about him and care a lot about. So they got to do what it's going to be very interesting to see kind of what the motivation level is going into this. It's a state rivalry. I know at least a lot of the players that have been in this program for a while, the ones who are from Kentucky, they're gonna do everything they can. Obviously, Cutter Boley is gonna play his butt off and do everything he can in his power. But this is the first time since 2013, because going into the Louisville game in 2014 and 15, that they were at 5 wins, so they could have won. That would have been bowl eligible to win. This is the first time they're going into a season finale since 2013 where they know their season ends. So I am curious to see, all right, is it just we're going to go through the motions and get on to our off season, or is it going to be let's go do everything we humanly possible to win this game and keep the streak alive? And hopefully it's I think a lot of players are going to bring it, but hopefully get that 100% buy-in to go get this one done. Because look, Louisville, you got to give them credit. Offensively, they're having a fantastic season. Their 2 freshman running backs, Brown, and I forget the other kid's name, but Isaac Brown's been awesome. Tyler Shaw, that was the big thing with him. Just stay healthy. He's been a really good quarterback when healthy. This is the first year. This is the 7th year of college football, and first one he's gotten through fully healthy. Mm-hmm. So, to his credit, he's done that and he's played at a high level. So, this offense presents problems, but defensively they can be had. They're not a good defense. You've seen Louisville Twitter. They've been wanting to fire Ron English all season long. They gave up 38 to a terrible Stanford team. There's no reason why. And we've seen it in these Louisville games the last 2 years where Kentucky's had bad offenses and they've been able to score on Louisville just because of their size and their speed. That it's different than, when you have it's different when you have even if you're a mid to bad SEC team, you just tend to have more size than the mid to even top half ACC squads. That's just how it is nowadays. And, outside of Clemson, Florida State, well, not this year, Florida State, they're a mess, but typically Florida State, Clemson, there aren't many ACC teams that feature that SEC size, and Louisville doesn't. So, if your defense is able to to do enough. They didn't play great in this game last year, got a couple key turnovers, but didn't play great overall. They played really well in this game 2 years ago. And then obviously during all the other wins in the streak, if your defense can play up to its standard, the offense just has to get the job done. I mean, this defense can be had for Louisville. They're not that good. I think they rank like 63rd in scoring. They're 62nd in total. I want to say their pass defense is in the 80s, if I'm not mistaken. So they're just a unit you can take advantage of. And, it's a game Jamarian Wilcox can hit some big runs. It's a game where if Cutter Bully's feeling comfortable, they're going to be able to execute down the field. So to me, it's just if this offense, if it were ever, in all their non-con games, again, they haven't played anyone in those, but Ohio's having a good year, but they can be had. This offense is capable enough to score points on the Louisville Cardinals, and we'll see if they do or not.
As always, we're coming to y'all courtesy of the Believe Podcast Network, BLEAV.com. Be sure to check us out there. Subscribe, like, follow Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to give a subscription and a like. Remember, we've got Tennessee fans and Louisville fans who have taken the time to subscribe on Apple Podcasts. So BBN, jump in there, leave a 5-star rating and a nice little review. We definitely would appreciate it. Having said everything you said about Louisville's defense, is a quarterback making his first career start just the thing they need to see?
Yeah, no, that is. I'm glad. First of all, credit to it's a minimal credit thing, but I'm glad Mark Stoops went out and just said it, and didn't try to get cute about it. Just went out and said it because fans, the motivation to go to this game, man. I mean, it's a 4-7 team that hasn't won a big home game all year.
Yeah.
It's going to be freezing cold. It's a nooner after a holiday, after a basketball game late on Friday night.
Yes.
Like, there's all the excuses in the world to just mail it in and let that stadium be red. But if there's one reason to show up for Saturday, it's Cutter Bully. I mean, I thought we talked about it against Murray State, but that was Murray State. But against Texas, man, I mean, was it perfect? Absolutely not. But he made some big time throws in that game against the number one pass defense in America, and put up 160 yards. If that if you don't have that hold on the Jamori Macklin play, you're looking at an almost 200-yard passing in one half against the number one passing defense in college football. So that is exciting. I think Cutter has the physical traits. Obviously 6'5", 215, great size. He looks just his weight's probably different than the 215 he was listed at preseason. He looks like a junior, like when you're around him. He doesn't look like a stocky freshman. So tons to like from how he was slinging it around. He's comfortable. I mean, the biggest thing you worry about, and it's something that Brock Vandegrift has struggled with, is the deer in the headlights. And once he takes a hit, how is he going to respond? I thought it was very telling that first play from scrimmage that he sees on Saturday, he takes a sack, and it wasn't just a sack. Like, he got hit pretty good. It's like a 12 or 13-yard loss. Very next play, he stands up in the pocket and he hits Barry on the money for 43 yards. So it's just
that's the mindset you got to have.
That's what you got to have, man. So I think that I don't think the heartbeat's going to be too fast in this game. I think he's going to be calm, cool, and collected. I don't think he's going to be too nervous. And again, it's not Murray State. That's for damn sure. They're much better than Murray State, but it's not Texas either. Like, he played he played a bunch of NFL DBs last week, and a couple that are going to be early draft picks this coming year. Louisville doesn't have any of that. They don't even, Gelati, who was awesome for them last year, only has 4.5 sacks. Like, they don't even have a dominant pass rusher this year. There's nothing to be scared about with this Louisville defense. And I don't think Bully would be scared he just proved the not only number one pass defense in America, they're the number one total defense in America, Texas was. So he showed he was unafraid against them. I don't think he's going to be afraid at home in that environment, nonetheless. But so I'm just not expecting him to be afraid at home of a mediocre Louisville defense that every Louisville fan would tell you their defense is not that good. I'm not just saying that. They're bad defense. Like, they can be had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's you run the risk of maybe getting his confidence shaken, or if you throw him out there to the Wolves. But like you said, he was just out there against Texas, and in some instances, is maybe you don't know what you don't know. Kind of like the September call up that makes it to the bigs. See ball, hit ball. You're not fooled by all these pitches and this major league pitching, and you're just up there confident and glad. So maybe you get that out of Cutter, and we've been hearing about him forever. He's been highly touted. He's got the pedigree. He's got all and I think you're there. You're covering the team, and a lot of people keep referencing how much he's worked, how much he's really invested as a young guy. Not trying to throw shade. You kind of wish maybe some of this would rub off on Wilcox, and maybe sounds like Cutter is really serious, and he's really about that business.
Yeah, no question. And look, and he's a kid who's going to understand what Saturday means to the fan base. He was a part of it. He's he played his high school ball here in Lexington. He's from the state. So I just don't think the moment will be too big for him. I think it's actually a really good spot for him. I would be more worried about Brock Vandegrift than Cutter Boley. It's just a matter of can this offense put up points? Because if they can, I think they're going to win this game. They've proven time and time again they can beat Louisville. And how bought in are they? Or if they're fully bought in and they can score points, I think they win this game. If there's a third of the team not bought in and they only score 17 points, they're going to lose. It's that simple. I think score 24, I feel pretty good about it. If they don't, probably not.
Yeah. And 24 for the first time all season.
Well,
in the last
not
year.
Counting the 3 bad games. Yeah.
So
it's been a bad year offensively, but again, this is, I understand like Vandy's defense is so. Like they played some really good defense. Like Auburn is a great, like as crappy as they are overall, Auburn's a really good defense. Like they're top 20 in the country. Tennessee, elite defense. Texas, elite defense. South Carolina, elite defense. Florida, down the stretch, elite defense. Ole Miss, number 1 run defense. Like this is the 4th easiest defense they've played this year outside of Murray State, Ohio, and Southern Miss. Yeah. It just is what it is. That's not even a dig at Louisville. Just go look at Kentucky's schedule and see what they had to deal with in the SEC. Like they didn't play Mississippi State this year.
Yep.
They didn't play Arkansas. They didn't play Oklahoma. Well, Oklahoma's a good defense too. It's just the SEC. The defense in the SEC. Like, go look at the scores of a lot of these SEC like conference games. They're outside, like Auburn, Texas A&M was a shootout last weekend, but there hasn't been many of those. Alabama, Georgia was too. But overall, like, yeah, you can find some here and there, but like, Ole Miss, Florida was 24-17. Kentucky, Ole Miss was 2017. Georgia, Texas, Georgia got to 30, but it was because they had 3 picks, and it was 30-15. Like, these games aren't 50-40 barn burners. Like they're low, like that. They're close to hitting those unders in a lot of games. So look at outside of the Alabama one. Look at Vandy's scores. They beat Auburn like 17-7. They won here 20-13. Like Tennessee has some ugly scores in there. With Arkansas, it was 19-14. So like the SEC is a lot like the scores and the parity is NFL-esque, and Louisville just hasn't played that. So we'll see. Again, I think Louisville's a good team. I think Chow being healthy and having a really good year gives them more credit than what I thought they were going to be going into the year. But they can, if Stanford can beat them, Kentucky can beat them. There's no question.
That's true. You talked about the basketball game Friday night, with Georgia State coming in. It's another reason why football attendance might be low. Flipping to basketball, they had a game last night that, you had to win ugly. It wasn't just flowing and pretty, and the offense just rocking and rolling and in this groove. And credit to Western for that. And
no question,
Kentucky still found a way, still overcame all that, and you still end up scoring almost 90 points in a game where you're like kind of wobbly or kind of not cohesive and
right
clicking on all cylinders.
Yeah, almost. That was the crazy part of it, is that they scored 87 still. But yeah, I think it was good for them. Honestly, WKU. I like what Mark Pope said after the game, that it was preparation, or they treated it like a first round game of the NCAA tournament. I mean, WKU brought back 8 guys from their team that won their conference tournament, and then I think they were up like 6 or 7 at halftime against Marquette in the first round of the NCAA tournament last year. So like they returned, and Don McHenry is a really, really good player. I'm sure a lot of big schools would have loved to have had him. Faye, the forward, that kid can play. Like that was a pretty good WKU team. And, outside of Duke, they were by far the most physical anyone's been with Kentucky so far this season. So I think that was good for them to kind of deal with that physicality. I think, honestly, like just the way they played defense, they might have even been more physical with them than Duke was.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so I think it was good for Kentucky to experience that. I think it was good for them to have to face some adversity again. Obviously, you don't want to shoot 26% from 3 many more times. It's not a winning recipe, but, they were able to play great defense. I think they held WK to 3 for 26 for 3, which is crazy. But that's another thing, too. Like when they play Clemson and Gonzaga next week, like those teams are not going to shoot 3 for 26. So, you need to be able to hit your shots at a higher clip. And honestly, the only thing I came away worried from this game was the free throw shooting. I mean, you missed 13 free throws, and 4 of them were from your point guard and Lamont Butler. So, like, you look at Lamont Butler, I want to make sure I have this right, but I'm pretty sure he's kind of been a middle of the pack to bad free throw shooter the majority of his career. Yeah, I mean, 66%, then he had a good year at 77, 73, 59 last year from the free throw line. Like, that's a problem. That's a real problem. And, Brandon Garrison, center, 7-footers, you see that a lot. He missed I think Amari Williams had some misses, but the free throw shooting thing is a little concerning. Just because you look at the team's average. Like, I think back in June, I compiled all the transfers stats and, did a little stat profile, and they were about, I know before Jackson Robinson, they were like a 65% free throw shooting class. And then Jackson was 90% last year. So he upped the average up to 71. But like that was something like I worried about going into the year, was free throw shooting, just because we've seen free throws send Kentucky home like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, look, Kansas State.
Yep.
Not 2 years ago, with PJ Washington went 8 for 20.
Right.
PJ went 5, not to pick on him, but went 6 for 11. Then the St. Peter's game, they missed a ton at the line. They missed a ton at the line against K-State again. And then last year against Oakland. So, like, it's an every year thing. I know it's a new regime, but, like, free throw shooting, that was, like, my biggest concern from last night by far. I think the fact that they went 8 for 28 from 3, there's not going to be – they're going to have those nights, but they're going to be far and few between. Kobe Bray is shooting 3 for 9 from 3. I mean, that's just not going to happen that often. Like, they're going to be fine. And they showed you a lot on the defensive end. They found different ways to win. I love that. I like that Andrew Carr, yet again, when adversity struck, stepped up to the plate and was kind of the guy you can run your offense through. So, there was a lot of good there. But the free throw, that was my lone concern coming out of that game. Was I was already kind of concerned about it going into the year, just knowing the track record of some of these players. And it reared its ugly head yesterday.
Yeah. And there'll be a chance to shoot more free throws, because you got to think that more teams are going to try to be physical.
Oh, no question.
That, and there's teams that are even more physically imposing than Western, Auburn and, Alabama and all these teams in the league that are going to be physical, just by their very nature.
I mean, they missed 13 free throws last night. So you only missed 4 on the night. Say you make 9 of those, then you're talking. You're scoring 90. You leave that game with 96. It's just you can't leave points on the board like that, especially like you said, when they play the more physical teams, and the margin for error is just not what it is against Western or Lipscomb and Georgia State and some of these teams that they're playing early. So it's something that needs to get cleaned up. And I'm sure, it wasn't brought up at all post game yesterday. But I'm sure, if we see it again Friday, that's going to be probably their focal point leading up to the Clemson game.
That's it. A couple more quick things before we get out of here. First of all, gotta give props to Kenny Brooks and the ladies. They're doing their thing as well, and already got a big win over Louisville. Which talk about Louisville. Talk about how they can't beat Kentucky football. Kentucky women's basketball hadn't beat Louisville in a long time.
Yeah, 2015.
They got that done the other day, so props to them. Props to Coach Skinner for another SEC championship in volleyball. Man, it's just ridiculous, man.
Yeah,
and
insane.
Texas coming in, prohibitive favorite. Skinner, we got 2 of our players playing for them, and to still be on top of the league. I mean, it's got to tip your cap to that man.
No question. Yeah. That's not, 8 years. Think about it. Kentucky basketball, I think I saw a stat. They never, even in their heydays with Coach Rupp, they never won 8 straight SEC titles in a row. Yeah. It's almost impossible in any sport, any level to do that. So, like you said, massive props to Coach Skinner. He's one of the best at what he does, if not the best. So, great for that program. Happy for them.
Absolutely. And real quick, I just got to ask you, because you've had 6 games, and every media member that's covering the team, you get a coaching change. When you listeners have been with us a while, you remember our emergency podcast when Cal left and Coach Pope came in, and you said, this is my first coaching search. So you've been through that now. Now you've had 6 games covering Mark Pope. How have you changed how you ask questions? Your lines of questioning.
Yeah, honestly, not much. I just, you could just ask them and know you're going to get an answer. With Cal, no, in all seriousness, it is true to an extent where I can just ask what's on my mind. With Cal, you had to kind of get a little more creative to try to entice them to answer your question, right? Mm-hmm. Whether maybe point out something really impressive that'll get his, or point out, be very specific to kind of not leave one. You gave me a really good answer, Cal. This is after the Kansas State loss. I forget the exact situation. It was it was a decision with a timeout, I think. I'd have to go back and look at what it was, but I asked him a very specific question and kind of left him no room not to answer it. Mm-hmm. If you just ask him, so what'd you think of Angel Carr tonight? He's going to go talk about Otega away. That's just how it went with Cal. So how about Lance was one of his go-to sayings for 3 years. So when Lance would play 3 minutes a game. So it's just, with Mark Pope, you ask a question and he's going to give you the best answer he possibly can. And it makes our jobs easier and better. And I think it's good for the fans because, Pope really does a good job. One, he doesn't dumb things down because, well, he does to an extent because we need him to. But he doesn't, what I mean by that is he doesn't talk down to us. He doesn't talk down to the fans. He knows this is a basketball state. This is a very smart fan base that gets this game as good as any in the country. Mm-hmm. So there's no basketball Benny, I'm better than you talk, but there is very good explanation and just, he has these terms for things and he explains what they are and what they're looking for. And he's, very analytical. He gives his exact, they want to shoot 35 threes or they want to hold teams to 10 offensive rebounds, whatever it is. He's very much specific. And I think that's good, not only for our jobs to get the information out easier, but good for the fans who listen in and, go to his post-game shows after the game. And they really, I think you get to learn every time you talk to him. So he definitely makes our jobs a lot easier than the previous coach did. There's no question about it.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. The last thing, man, you, as everybody knows, of course, you do great work covering the Cats for the Cats Paws. But you're Connecticut native, so I just got to ask the Northeasterners: are they just Dan Hurley being Dan Hurley, or are they thinking he needs to calm down, or how do they feel about it?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think they love Dan Hurley. Look, to me, it's how much can you nitpick a guy that just won 2 national championships and won every single NCAA tournament game by 13 points? But yeah, they know he needs to calm it down a little bit. Technical lost them the game against Memphis. But at the same time, it's like they're not. How could you get too mad at that guy? He's pretty damn good at what he does. He's a hothead. He's one of those guys, right, where it's like I was having this conversation today with my dad actually, because we were talking about Shedeur Sanders and how it looks like very well he could be our next quarterback. And I was trying to describe his personality, and it was like he's kind of like one of those guys where you love him if he's on your team and you hate him if he's on any other team. And I feel like that's kind of the deal with Dan Hurley. I feel like if he's your coach, just like with Cal for the really good years here at Kentucky, and then it kind of became a universal sick of him. Like if you have that guy, you're going to ride and die with that guy. If you don't, you're going to hate his guts. And I think that's kind of what it is with Hurley. So, but yeah, he needs to chill it a little bit, but at the same time, man, what he's done has worked. So how mad can he be?
Interesting. It'd be interesting if he had been Mitch's guy, or if he had said yes to Kentucky.
Yeah,
and if he was doing that here on a regular basis?
He would do it here.
Oh,
yeah. The fan. I mean,
the fit. He'd be like
all depend on the result, though, right?
Yeah, he'd be like Brian Kelly in Louisiana. Yeah. Possibly, if he did a lot of that. But at the
same time, like Cal was a pretty big hothead.
Yeah,
and the fans didn't hate it when they were winning. I think that's what it comes down to. I really do. At the end of the day, us sports fans are simple: win, just win. Like if you win, just keep doing what you're doing. As long as you're not breaking any laws, getting suspended, just keep doing what you're doing. But if you're losing. Here's a perfect example of that. Kalen DeBoer was wearing a T-shirt when they lost to Vandy, and all the fans were like, "It's because he's wearing T-shirts. It's unprofessional." Like they're gonna hate you when you lose. They're gonna hate everything about you if you lose. But if you win, they're not gonna give a crap what you do, as long as, like I said, you're not breaking any laws or anything.
That's true. I don't. I think he looks too much, but Billy Gillispie lost, and everybody talks about him and his interview with Janine Edwards and all that. So Cal, when he was winning, yeah, he was still cocky and arrogant, but we were cool. Yeah, I can see that too. But I think Dan needs to calm down, because you're trying to be like, don't turn into Bobby Knight just because you don't want a couple titles, man. Like don't, and Bobby Knight didn't get real jerky until he won a couple. Yeah. Then, he threw the chair after he already won a couple titles.
Right.
He's headbutting players on the sideline after he's won a couple titles. He choked Neil Reed after he'd already won his 3. So, you don't establish yourself, and now maybe you've always been like that, but now you really let it out because, hey, we don't need another Bobby Knight, man. No. Just cool out, Dan. Cool out. That's all. But least enthusiastic I've been about the Cowboys tomorrow when your Giants come to town.
I'll be rooting for the Cowboys.
I mean, the Washington game last week, that's the highlight of our season. I mean, it was still fun beating them the way they did, but I mean, everybody's worried about draft position now, but it is what it is. And I don't know. Well, Packers Dolphins might be the best game of the night tomorrow. Slate. Yeah. Oh, well.
Cal University in Illinois at 4. If you don't want to watch the terrible Giants and Cowboys.
There you go. Everybody, we always enjoy bringing these episodes to you. AG, enjoy your weekend. Have a good game Friday and Saturday. A good back-to-back weekend. Stay warm. Stay safe, everybody. Appreciate y'all listening. For Aaron Gershon, my name is Vinny Hardy. It's been another episode of Believe in Kentucky on the Believe Podcast Network. We'll see y'all next time.